Do you speak crowd lending? Welcome to our podcast covering the crowd lending industry. Our mission is to provide you with all the insights from this market and help you make informed decisions. I'm Gassan, co-founder and CEO of Acredius. We are a crowd lending platform based in Zurich, Switzerland. I'm delighted to host this podcast and hopefully bring value to all our listeners. Hi everyone, welcome to episode number 23 of the Do You Speak Crowd Lending podcast. Today I'm very honored to have with me Connor Gibney. Connor is the head of finance at Lendermarket. Connor, welcome, and please jump ahead and tell us a bit more about you and what you do with Lendermarket.
Yeah, thanks very much. Pleasure to be here and to speak with you guys about crowd lending and Lendermarket. I'm the head of finance at Lendermarket. I've only been with Lendermarket for 5 months now. Before that, I worked kind of in investment management and funds for about 5 years. Most recently in private credit, which involved kind of SME lending. Before that, I was working in London in banking, and before that, I qualified as a chartered accountant. So my kind of my experience has largely been in investments and loans, and I'm also a qualified accountant, which kind of suits to the role at Lendermarket, which kind of involves both kind of working on both the credit risk and the lending side, and also on the more pure finance, company finance end of things. So that's a bit about me and a bit about my experience and my kind of role at Lendermarket.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing, Connor. So Lendermarket is a digital lending platform, and you work with different originators.
Yeah,
take us through that.
Yeah, so Lendermarket essentially facilitates investors, everyday investors like myself and yourself and everybody, typically in Europe, to invest in loan originators across the world, globally, actually. At the moment, we have 4 loan originators on the platform, and those are Credit Star, Quick Check, Crediary, and Crediface. We have more in the pipeline, but we can get into that later. But yeah, so essentially, Lendermarket enables investors to invest in the loans of these platforms, but it also allows these loan originators to raise more money, because there's a real challenge for loan originators to raise capital to then use that capital to further its growth and to expand, because it can be quite difficult, particularly in various parts of the world, to raise capital. The cost of capital for loan originators, digital lenders across the globe can be as high as 25 or 30% for debt finance, which is very high. And then on the flip side, up until recently, where we have had an increase in interest rates, interest rates across the globe have been quite low, particularly in Europe and America and the UK. Interest rates have been very low, so the opportunity for investors to find yield on their investment has been very limited. So this allows investors to invest with these loan originators to get a higher than typical return on investment, but the return on their investment will still be a lower cost of capital than the loan originators are typically used to across the globe. So that's kind of where Lendermarket's sweet spot is, and the gap in the market that it has found. It has essentially reduced the spread for both loan originators and investors across the globe.
Interesting. So loan originators, in the sense, I looked a little bit at the platform, propose take the loans on their side, and then they kind of distribute them in their own loans, correct?
So the loan originators list their loans onto Lendermarket, and this gives the investor the opportunity to invest in those loans. So that's how it typically works. This will allow an investor to get a return on their investment in those loans. The loans will typically pay an interest rate, a margin, sorry, on the loan. There will be often principal repayments as well, and then in the event that say the loan goes overdue, so the underlying loan goes overdue, the loan originator on Lendermarket has to buy the loan back after 60 days of being overdue. So that's a big kind of, I suppose, USP as well for investors, or for Lendermarket, in terms of their offering to investors that those loans will get bought back by the loan originators, and the loan originator will include that in their sort of cost, essentially. That they would include the cost of having to buy back overdue loans. So that's sort of how it works, from I suppose listing the loans and the investment into those loans on Lendermarket.
And the bigger originator so far is Credit Star, right?
Yeah. So to give a bit of history on Lendermarket, Lendermarket was founded by the founder of Credit Star, Aro Sosar, who is based in Estonia, and it was essentially founded with the view to creating a further funding line to raise further capital for Credit Star, and this would then allow potential investors to get higher than usual interest margins from credits, from the availing of investing in the loans that Credit Star issue. But more recently, Lendermarket is in the process of becoming more independent from Credit Star, as Aro has noted the vast opportunity and the vast market that there is to help other loan originators to raise capital, and to help investors to invest in other loan originators.
Clear. And I mean, it is apparently working very well. I mean, the platform has facilitated more than 300 million euros in loans so far. So can you walk us through this journey to achieve this great milestone?
Yeah. So I suppose it would have obviously started from a much lower point, and at the moment there are currently about 50 million of loans invested on Lendermarket. The majority of these are investments into Credit Star. It's not quite 50 million, but we're sort of almost there, and the plan is to increase that. But this would be largely made up of shorter term loans less than 12 months in duration, that would be invested in, and then once they come to an end, they would be invested in again. And I suppose the sum total of the loans that have been invested over the last 3 or 4 years has risen to, actually, I think from our website, I see it's almost 320 million now. So it's a good success story, but it's very early days for Lendermarket, and we have ambitions to grow further over the course of the coming months and years.
Is it mainly consumer or SMEs?
So with Credit Star, it is entirely consumers and personal loans. But with some of the other loan originators on the platform, they offer investments into real estate loans or investments into SME loans.
Interesting. And I've seen that you guys are planning to have a secondary market, right?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that Lendermarket is working on at the moment is to launch essentially a completely upgraded platform. So we have a team of developers working around the clock to not only maintain the current platform, but to launch a new platform that will have far more capabilities than the current one does. And absolutely, you're correct in that. One of the key things that we are working towards is having a secondary market. And I suppose the rationale behind that is that, you know, we've found that for some loan originators, they have quite long-term loans. For example, you know, real estate loans tend to be very long-term, but investors much prefer to have liquidity or to invest in shorter-term loans where they can, you know, if they need the money after 3 or 6 months, that they can indeed, you know, avail of that liquidity, which a secondary market would have. So we are working to launch a new platform at the moment, which will be, you know, bigger and better. And as part of that, the plan is certainly to have a secondary market to help both investors and loan originators to bring more liquidity to the investments.
Fantastic. And I mean, at a certain level of maturity of the marketplace, you need that, right? As you mentioned, because investors want maybe to exit earlier or something like that. So definitely good to keep the flow rolling. In terms of license, I think you know that there is this ECSP license since November last year was out with the European Commission. You guys are on top of it as well?
Yes, so Lendermarket is in the process of applying for the CSP crowdfunding service provider license, which is issued by the Central Bank of Ireland. So we're working very hard, actually, at the moment as we speak, at the start of May, because we have to meet a deadline that's coming up to get that application in. So yes, absolutely, we're working towards that, and that will give both investors and loan originators, you know, more confidence in, you know, in Lendermarket, but in the sort of, I suppose, in the crowdfunding space in general.
Yeah, totally. I mean, this is great for the industry in general. It's good to have like some sort of standard so that not every European country has his own regulations and license and so on. So this is great. It's also great for our listeners, for investors who are interested in investing in the crowdfunding in general, in any vertical, the lending, the equity crowdfunding, and also the real estate and so on. So speaking of which, I mean, Connor, from your perspective, what do you think are the main advantages of this asset class from an investor perspective?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely good question. So I think that crowd lending is a reasonably new asset class, and I think that's one of the real appeals to it is that it was an asset class, you know, previously that was, you know, what I mean by an asset class, it was an area that was largely reserved. Funding lenders was largely reserved for big institutions and, you know, people, you know, sort of retail investors, everyday normal people were, I suppose, you know, they didn't have access to these markets, and now because of crowd lending, they have access to, you know, to be able to invest in the loans of digital loan originators and digital lenders across the globe. So, you know, I think that this is a exciting asset class. It allows investors to avail of higher than usual returns for debt investments. I think that, you know, a lot of platforms such as Lendermarket offer a buyback guarantee. So, I think that's a very strong USP for the platforms that offer that. I think that it wouldn't be right to say that there's no risk of loss on investment. There is certainly a risk if the loan originator sort of gets into trouble, but the buyback guarantee gives investors a bit of additional comfort. Yeah, so I think that there are a number of different advantages to the crowd lending space, and I hope that more and more people will get involved in this space, and I foresee huge growth in the market for sure.
Wonderful. Excellent. Connor, thank you so much for these insights, but there is one thing we all want to know. You said you're based now in Dublin, right?
Yeah.
I don't see any reason to ask you this question, but I will ask it. What's your favorite fruit?
My favorite fruit?
Yeah.
My favorite fruit is raspberry. I always remember that my family had jam with toast for breakfast, and
Okay.
I always remember everyone saying, "Oh, I prefer strawberry jam," but you know what? I always preferred the raspberry jam, and even to this day, I prefer raspberries over strawberries, and I think maybe that's a bit of an outlier, but yeah, for me it would be raspberries. I have good memories of raspberries, so there you go.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Connor, for sharing this as well. Thank you for sharing these insights with our listeners. Anything else you want to add?
No, thank you very much for having me. It was an honor and a pleasure, and wish you the best going forward.
Thank you so much, Connor. Take care. Thank you, everyone listening to us, and we'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thanks again for staying with us until the end. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media so you'll never miss an episode. Please don't hesitate to send us your questions and comments at egregious.ch. Thank you.